Hello, my friends. Today I was reading in Second Kings. So I'm reading the Bible, Second Kings, chapters 22 and 23. And there's an interesting thing in this story. So here's where you get King Josiah. Josiah is a very good king who serves the Lord, prophesied of. Back when the kingdom split, Jeroboam left Judah, left the line of David, and Solomon as king, started the northern kingdom. He started, sacrificing to other gods and different things like that. And a prophet at that time prophesied that one day this child would be born who'd be named Jeroboam. I'm not Jeroboam, Josiah. He would call Josiah and he would offer the priest on that. So this guy Josiah has been prophesied of for a while, a couple hundred years, I believe, at this point, and at least 100 years. I've got to go back and do my math on the time between the two, but it's been very multiple kings at this point, and this guy's prophesied, and he's born, and he brings the people back to God. He brings them back to the law, and they talk about how he's one of the greatest kings, and Israel's all happy. And then what happens? Egypt decides to attack Assyria and goes through Judah to get there. And Josiah comes out to say, hey, you can't go through my lands. And they kill him. And he is taken back to his city in his chariot, dead. So what's the lesson here? Well, the lesson here is pretty simple. Just because you're good doesn't mean everything good will happen. He was a good king. He was a righteous king. We have nothing in the record to give us any indication that he changed his ways, that he suddenly became wicked. But he still died. Bad things still happened. There is a tendency among the religious community to believe that if I'm good, nothing bad will happen. And that's a lie. Bad things happen. And bad things happen to good people. And so connecting your belief on if you are good or bad based on what happens to you is faulty logic, and it's just going to drag you down. You can base it off of what do you create? How good are the things that you do? But you can't base it on what happens to you. That is based on so many other people's choices. If I'm a good person, but the guy next to me on the bus decides to be a bad person, and he decides to rob me, it doesn't matter that I'm good. He still made the decision to rob. So we have to disconnect from ourselves this belief that what happens to us is a direct indicator of whether we are good, whether we're bad, whether the thing we're doing is good, being based on whether it worked out or not. That's not a good measure of how good you or your activities or your desires are. You need to disconnect it. It's how good do you feel about doing it? How many people is what you're doing blessing? How many people, what are the fruits of you? Not what happens to you. Because if you try and view everything through this lens of good things happen to good people, you're going to be stuck with a lot of questions and a lot of doubts when crap happens. The world, as my family says, you get lifed, because it's going to happen. Buddha, in teachings of Buddha, talks about how life is suffering. That suffering is a part of life. It's not because you're good or bad. The rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. So does the suffering. So when bad things happen, don't immediately look at yourself and be like, oh, am I a bad person? It's like, no, something bad happened. Now, if the fruits of your actions are bad things, if your actions are creating bad results, that's one thing. But if stuff's just happening, hey, shit happens.